Imagine you push a button and suddenly your raw drive explodes. How much would your life change? What would you finally stop running from? All of us have seen people fully fired up, motivated to the core, using this energy to win in life. This can be frustrating to watch, knowing if only you could dial it up, this would be you. But maybe it can be you. Let's explore what would happen if there was this magical button, and what if there's a way to make it real. Motivation is a tricky thing. It is something that we all dream about having, and there are moments that really hit us. There are moments where we are fully motivated, are interested in the topic, and just work hard on it. Unfortunately, most of us have not figured out how to sustain it, how to have it on more consistently. There are some people that are more aligned with their nature in being more motivated, they're more naturally energized and passionate. Most of us have only moments where this is true. You then remember these moments of full motivation, of just being fully energized and working on something. You remember and look wishfully back, thinking that if only you would become motivated, if only you would get this feeling back, then you would be able to do all the things you currently push off and just don't feel like doing, or you're easily distracted by social media scrolling, watching certain clips on YouTube and so on. And then we have this what if scenario, if there was a button that would just fully motivate us and we could click it, and probably most people look at it and think, wow, this would solve all my issues. Because if only I was just motivated, everything is clear, at least I know some of what I need to do. The question is, what would your life look like if this became true? Then you lean back in your chair and imagine you would probably lose a lot of weight, you would eat better, you would go out more, you would create, you would have better relationships, you would work more on something that is meaningful, you would try things out, like you have some ideas, but then you quickly forget them or don't feel the energy to go for it. It becomes a pipe dream. The same is true for the general direction of your life, where you know what you want to do, you learn a new skill, you might have an interest to figure something out, but then it quickly fizzles out and you just let it go. I think we all can look back even a day ago, but certainly a week, a month, a year back, where we had all these ideas, all these potential opportunities, all kinds of potential paths that were interesting. Paths where you even imagined yourself to be in for a moment and what would happen, but then it fizzles out and you move on to something else. Dreams need energy of thought and action to start materializing into something real. If you were motivated, if you felt really pumped, then you would probably go for these things. But because you're not, you just step back and continue with your life. And so your life would most likely change tremendously if you had an easier, more powerful control of your motivation. You push a button, your motivation explodes, and your life changes because every day you do something meaningful, and maybe even if you're a little tired, because your motivation is so high, you push on. You do something 30 minutes here, 60 minutes there, and you make it. Or in the case of, for example, eating too much, then because your motivation is so high, you just don't eat. Even if your life is maybe stressful of work or work was hard, you won't do it because the motivation is there. You press a button, things change. Makes sense, right? Does this need to remain in fantasy only, or is there a way to do it in your real life? This is something that many people are interested in because it then goes beyond just a dream that creates some longing for it inside of you, but will never happen. The question is, can this happen in your real life? First, we really need to consider what is motivation and is it this complex mythical thing or not, at least regarding the ability to influence it. Because for many people, I'm sure if you were to be asked or if you think about it, where does your motivation come from? You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know why you are motivated at certain times and not at others. You understand pieces like being interested in a topic, but you don't understand the full picture. Is it something that is beyond you completely, or maybe something that you can work on or you can push out of you? Maybe there is some form of button. I'm sure you agree that it won't be a button that completely creates 100% full-on energy. You won't be moving from nearly zero motivation to jumping and running a marathon. Okay, maybe not that. But are there ways for you to go from nearly zero, doing nothing or don't feeling like doing anything, to then maybe a 10 or 20 out of 100? 50 out of 100, 60, 80 out of 100. Does this path exist? Maybe. Before we dive deeper, you have to separate these two. Is there a real life button that will push you from 0 to 100, or from a, let's say, 3 to 100, 5 to 100? The answer is most likely no. This is more the realm of science fiction and maybe in the future with some pill or some robotic interface. For now, the answer is no. But is there maybe a path where you can double it, triple it, 10x it? And maybe your motivation right now is a 5. And then you want to make it at least 20 or a 50. And then you will do something with passion and energy, or a 70, maybe even an 80 eventually. This path is potentially likely, right? I'm sure that even the most pessimistic of you would agree a bit better is possible. And then maybe even more than just a bit is possible. There's another element here that we haven't discussed yet. You might consider, okay, maybe you can create motivation, maybe you can do something, but in your mind, it looks like you have to do a lot. Many different tasks with a lot of energy and focus and time put in. For example, I'm sure everybody has heard and considered morning routines, where you go and maybe take a walk, then do some exercises for your body, meditate, drink a tea, and do all kinds of things, right? Have affirmations, have all these things that take you 30 minutes, an hour to do, and then you can sit down and maybe your motivation will rise. This is something that you imagine, but I'm not interested in that. I'm not as interested in that as in a particular button that will push your motivation higher. Why? Because you don't want to be dependent upon a whole hour of doing things that most likely won't even have a big effect on you. In fact, you put in so much energy already into all the tasks in the beginning you do beforehand, it might become a problem eventually. The interesting question is whether there's a button for motivation, and then what is your button? And maybe over time you're able to push it with just a click. The first part of the magic of finding the button is to understand that what you're doing is a decision. When we break it down, you push the button and the decision for you to do something will emerge. This is what you're after, right? You want to push a button to be able to do what you wish to do. Where you sit down and have a cup of tea, or you watch some videos, watch a movie, and you click this button in your mind like a decision, and then you transition to, okay, now I have to work, now I have to do something. The question then is, where is this button? So there are 3 elements involved in your button, because this button is a mixture of a worked out plan, a trigger, and habit formation. First is the plan. This is the mental work through beforehand. The mental work through is basically you think through your situation and figure out a variety of questions. Right? It is a combination of the desire to do something, to do more, but also having clarity in what you need to do. So you really ponder on what it is that you actually want to do. You strategize on the various elements, bringing them all together. So you basically do a lot of thinking work beforehand until you arrive at a plan for your life, or at least a plan for the next weeks. This is very important, because even if you have this fantasy button that will push your motivation to 100, if you don't know what you want to use it for, you have a problem, and then nothing would happen. Sure, you might do all your daily tasks better, more motivated, more energized, but this is not what all of this is about. You don't want to be better in random things. You want to not only be motivated, but you also want to channel it in the right way. So this is the first step. You need to think through your situation and basically create a plan based on your situation, your problems, your goals, your skills, and everything else that is relevant. Though keep in mind, the importance is understanding where you want to go and having a certain clarity on what you need to do. It might sound complicated, it might sound difficult and complex, but it's really not about that. You just need to know what path you're walking. That's it. Then the second element, what you need is a habit trigger. And this is something that doesn't have to be that complicated either. It doesn't have to be. You can use AI to help you or ponder by yourself. You need something that is meaningful to you. This is where your path is unique, so you need to understand, you need to have your unique clarity on your situation. But then also the trigger is unique to yourself. What one sentence or what image will trigger something in you or you would like to do? What makes you feel? I don't know, random things, retire early, or I want to be a millionaire, I want to buy my parents a house. These are incredibly generic, and I'm sure you will figure something out that fits you well. You can have a vision board of what it is that you desire if one sentence is not enough. And how this would work is if your eyes catch your trigger, or if you hear something, right, depending on the person, it might be a part of a podcast. You might have this 5-minute video that really motivates you, or some type of music. And when you catch your trigger, then you mentally press the button. Again, ultimately, it is the decision to do it now. The button is just a way to focus all these different elements into one thing and then also create a habit. And the combination of those will eventually ensure that you find a rhythm which becomes a habit. Overthinking is what's oftentimes stopping us from doing what we need to do. Or the other big issue is we haven't built good habits yet. but it is often a mixture of these two elements that bring us down enough where we either decide to not take action or delay it long enough for it to get ugly, for it to feel really bad. When you think about it, for example, you watch a movie and then you think, okay, I would like to do something. I want to learn a new language or how to write or how to code. You, in this moment, could press the button of shutting off the television or push the X on the browser. You can decide right now in the moment where these disruptive thoughts came to you to push it off and move towards what it is that you want to do. If it is coding, maybe you have some course that you open up, maybe you have some coding environment where you practice things and you open it up. If you want to write, you open up Google Docs or Word and just start typing. The key here is the following. You could actually do it. And most likely it would be easier to do than to wallow in these thoughts, in this frustration that is building with every moment of indecision. You could just shut it off and do it. It is possible. You might think it needs this level 100 fantasy motivation, but the result can be achieved by simply doing it. A lot of the problems come from this indecision, from this mixture of both worlds where you want to do something, but then you are also not sure. And the great thing about the system is that when you see your trigger, you can actively decide, no, right now I don't want to do it. But even then, it is a decision that is clear and fine. So either way, it is better than what's going on right now with you. So it might not be a real magic button, but trust me, you will be surprised by how much power the habit of simply doing it is going to be. Because despite what you might think, it actually doesn't take that much energy. Only once you start thinking, then comes the indecision and all these thoughts about what you would miss out if you don't do it, or what you would miss out if you do it, and all of that. Then it becomes a problem. I mean, think about it. Right now, you can literally click X to something you're doing that you don't want to do and open up something that you want to do.